What's up, everybody? Derek Lambert here, host of MythVision Podcast. We're going to be talking about the Enuma Elish, the Exodus, with my good buddy, Victor Engelman. Welcome back, Victor. How are you, my brother?
Hi, Derek. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Good to be back.
Yeah, great to have you.
Last time.
Yeah, we had a blast. We went to hell and back, right? And today it looks like we're going to go have our own little Exodus situation occur. And you reached out to me and you said, look, man, I you're not a PhD. I'm not a PhD, but you said, look, I'm looking at the Enuma Elish. I'm reading the narrative and I'm comparing it over here to the Exodus. And I'm finding a lot of unique parallels that go between both stories. And so the question then becomes, do you think that the author of Exodus is aware of the Enuma Elish in the background, which we don't bat an eye when we look at like Genesis, Noah flood, some of these other examples where we go, they seem to know about the Mesopotamian background. It wouldn't shock me with Jews in Babylon. It wouldn't shock me with Jews in Persia inheriting this ancient Mesopotamian material. It wouldn't shock me with them living in the land where Jerusalem is located in Palestine, because that very region is just saturated with these stories as well. So you wrote me and you said, you think there's something going on. Tell us what you think you found, and then let's dive into some fun stuff.
You know me.
The shirt. There you go.
Yeah, this is Father Enki.
There you go. Okay.
with a Tigris and Euphrates coming out of his shoulders.
Love it. Yeah, so people know, that is like humanity's bread and butter right there. I mean, the Tigris and Euphrates, central to the ancient world. Okay.
Yeah, and he can make fishes appear like Jesus. I'm interested in Sumerian and Babylonian mythology, but that hasn't always been the case. So I think about 4 years ago, I started looking into the topic. Basically, I just wanted to know if there actually was a Sumerian or Babylonian god named Gozer. Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow. What's his name?
Gozer.
Yeah,
that's not an...
is that a name of one of the ghosts?
Yeah, it's that goddess in the end that turns into the Marshmallow Man.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they say that's a Sumerian or Babylonian god, and so I just wanted to look into that. What are their stories? What did they believe in?
Right.
And one of the first things that I came across was a Wikipedia article about Enuma Elish. And yeah, I read that and read the outline. Okay, there's this Marduk guy, and he has this battle with Tiamat, and who is a sea goddess, and then he kills her and splits her in half. Now I keep reading. Okay, he gets the May Tablet of Destinies, and I keep reading and say, wait a minute, what? He splits a sea goddess in half, like Moses splits the sea in half, and then he gets a tablet, like Moses gets the 10 Commandments. And
right. Yeah,
so that was my initial spark, where I thought, that sounds interesting. I want to know more about that. And I've read both stories very extensively. I don't know how often. And I just kept finding more and more parallels, and really good parallels, I would say. Right? Not things where you have to squint and look sideways, right?
That's what I wanted to get into. And by the way, just so everybody knows, I did not have time to even read what you produced. I ran it through AI to create a little cool parallel chart. That's it. I didn't even want to read it. I wanted to just get a raw take on what you found, and we can discuss the details. And some might be stronger than others. Again, but I do wonder. I ask myself, like, is there something behind this coming from the Mesopotamian stories? And I remember reading, and I can't remember where, I tried to reach out to Joshua Bowen to get the exact source. In his part 2, volume 2, of the Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament, Joshua Bowen quotes a scholar when the Exodus gets brought up, specifically about splitting the waters. And I'd rather quote it to get the exact source from the scholar than to sit here and try to remember and butcher it. But maybe he'll message me before this live stream's up.
Yeah, let's pray for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Again, I've found a lot of parallels, and I will admit I do tend to get excited when I find parallels and get a little bit parallelomania. But ultimately, I want to know the truth, right? So
yeah,
so I question myself.
The ancients were parallelomaniacs, just so everybody knows. And this idea that, we might make connections that aren't there sometimes. That's fine. As long as we're not dogmatic and acting like we have the truth. But there is parallelophobia too. Yeah. And there are people who are afraid to do any parallels at all. And I get it if you're in an academic setting and you can't prove a parallel. I understand that. I respect the scholars who are like, I'm cautious on that. But I also have a ton of respect for the ones who go out on a limb and say, I think there's something to this, and here's why. They know that there's a dialogue happening. They know that there's conversation and that these stories get recycled. They know this. So it's not hard to assume that there's something going on. It's just, is this it,
Yeah. I mean, we both want to know the truth, right?
Yes.
We look at the arguments. I actually did look into the counter arguments before. I think a publication by a man, if I remember correctly, called Sumura. But it's been a long time since I did that.
Okay.
I might remember it wrong. And he said, no, these things aren't connected because Enuma Elish has a divine battle and Exodus doesn't. And therefore they can't be connected, right? So that's parallelophobia in my mind because, there's a difference there, of course. Judaism is monotheistic. You can't have a divine battle because for a divine battle, you need two gods, and there are no two gods in monotheistic religions, right?
Well, you do have Yahweh fighting against Yam, fighting against Leviathan. There are indicators that there's the battle going on. And again, just so everybody could see, this is, obviously Marduk versus Tiamat, but you could also Ningish Zeta. You could come up with, there are various deities that fight the chaos dragon. And this would be the stand-in for it. I wanted to get like a cool little black and white for that so people could see.
Yeah, I personally fell in love with Sumerian and Babylonian mythology so much. I've really decorated my flat with all sorts of art. Like right here, behind me, that's the Codex Hammurabi.
That's awesome.
And,
and
stuff.
By the way, I don't know if you feel like we want to start showing these parallels here. I did this. I don't know if you looked at it, if you liked it, or if you preferred yours. It doesn't matter.
No, this is really beautiful.
Okay. So I did a side-by-side reading using your parallel chart of the Babylonian creation epic and the book of Exodus, tracking the structural parallels from overpopulation and flight through the sea battle and the building of the divine dwelling. And I don't know when you want to jump into these, but whenever.
I think I just want to mention one thing before we start.
Okay.
Last time we talked about this volcanic eruption, right? Of Mount Nemrut in eastern Turkey, and how that connected to the Song of Ulikumi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Song of Ulikumi is the oldest instance of the Chaos Kampf myth. And Enuma Elish is also an instance of the Chaos Kampf myth. So if Exodus and Enuma Elish are connected, then Exodus and the Song of Ulikumi are connected, and then Exodus and this volcanic eruption are connected. And that would mean that the translation error that I proposed last time would become much more probable, right?
Which one was that?
Where I said that the burning bush might be a translation error from a burning pole, like the lava spine on Mount Nemrut.
Okay.
So
well,
a burning pole on a mountain.
If I can
because the Babylonian word for bush and pole are the same word, sikpu.
Gotcha. Okay. So the only thing I'd be hesitant about is this. Ulikumi could have inspired Enuma Elish, or vice versa. I'm not sure which direction it would go. It wouldn't mean that it would mean indirectly there's a connection between the Exodus and you don't have to have Exodus know each and every story, but it could just be one of them.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, but that's
I mean, there are parts of other stories, right? The cattle of Helios, for example.
Right.
Inspiring.
And again, I would just say this: I'm not a philologist. I'm not a linguist. I have no way to determine that. The one guy I did have on, you probably watched that one, was Gad Barnea, who saw that fire, the burning bush, as representing the Persian eternal fire, the divine fire that the Persians worshipped. And
I thought about that, and I asked myself, hey, what if the Persian eternal fire was kindled at Mount Nemrut when the eruption took place?
Right.
That would be insane, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's really just speculation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we are not here to speculate, so let's look at the hard evidence.
Okay, let's do it. I'm pulling it up, and I'm going to zoom in a little. Hopefully it lets you see better. Let's go more. I want you to really... Oh, no, that goes too far. I like it where it's parallel. There we go. Mm-hmm. So we're starting here at the beginning in the Enuma Elish and Exodus. Okay. How do you want to go about this? Do you want me to read?
I'd say we do it so that I read Enuma Elish and you read Exodus.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. I divided this into 10 sections. You wrote 13, but yeah, that's a bit much. You counted the title page, for example.
Okay.
Let's go into that. Okay. So and we have full references here, right? So there's the exact number of the tablet and the line number in the Enuma Elish case, and the chapter and verse in the Exodus case right next to the verse, right? So everybody can look that up and confirm that we are not lying to you.
Yeah, you can fact check the sources.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, start?
Yeah, sure. Waiting on you.
Okay. Apsu and Tiamat, water god and goddess, mingled their waters together. The gods were created within them. Their clamor got loud, throwing Tiamat into a turmoil. They jarred the nerves of Tiamat.
A new king over Egypt said, "Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. When there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land."
And just so these are both lines from later, but just so we know what numbers we are talking about, right? We have an overpopulation in both cases. In Enuma Elish, it says, in heaven and netherworld, he stationed 600 gods.
And in the Bible, and the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men beside children. And I like you giving commentary. Yeah, keep giving commentary.
Yeah, that was one of the first parallels that I found. And I think that's a pretty strong one.
Yeah.
Apsu opened his mouth and addressed Tiamat. Their behavior has become displeasing to me, and I cannot rest in the daytime or sleep at night. I will destroy and break up their way of life, that silence may reign and we may sleep.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, Shipra and Puah, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and if it be a son, then ye shall kill him.
Yeah, and that's already a weird part in the Bible, right? You have allegedly like 3 million people, right? 600,000 men plus women and children are estimated to be about 3 million, right? And only 2 midwives for 3 million people. That's insane, right?
Yeah.
But it's not insane when you consider that in ancient mythologies, you often have 2 midwife goddesses. So in Babylonian, it was actually 7, but a lot of ancient mythologies have really 2 midwife goddesses. And I think that actually disproves one point of Bart Ehrman, because he says, well, Jesus cannot be Dionysus turned into a human, because never has God been turned into a human, ever, right? And there's no precedent, is what he says. But I think we have 2 precedents right here, right? And
so hold on. So with Bart Ehrman, are you talking about the incarnation? The idea that Jesus is incarnate or something? I'm not sure I'm tracking.
Yeah, that's one of his arguments, that there is no precedent of a god being turned into a human, only the other way around, people being deified.
Well, that's pretty silly, I think. I mean, I'd have to see what source that is, because I mean, many humans on Earth claim to be the gods, incarnate in many ways. I mean, even Apollo claimed to be, or not Apollo, but Caesar Augustus claimed to be Apollo in the flesh. That they were, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to read what was said specifically. But okay, sorry, I didn't get how that related to this though. What's that got to do with this here?
Well, they both want to solve the problem of overpopulation by killing the subjects.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that happens with Jesus. Yeah, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So only 2 midwives, huh? Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Tiamat cried, "How can we destroy what we have given birth to? Effectively, our children. We don't want to kill the children, right?"
Got it. And then the Bible says, "But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive."
Yeah. So in both cases, the command to kill the children is not followed through, right? And then they come up with a different plan, though their behavior.
I missed a super chat. Hold on, real quick here. Solara Knight, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't know how I missed you, but I missed you somehow. Marduk, Armar, Utu, bull calf of the sun, as Aaron's golden calf of Bible. Also, could Enuma Elish evolve as Lord Baal in Bible?
Well, I think Marduk becomes kind of both Moses and Aaron at different times, and yeah, I mean, Baal is of course the hero in the Ugaritic Baal cycle. I think what happened is that from earlier sources, you had 2 branches, one being the Baal cycle and one being Enuma Elish, and then the Canaanite people came to Babylon in the Babylonian exile, and then they came across this other story, and I think they mixed that. Like, for example, the motif of a promised land, I think, comes from the Baal cycle, where Memphis is a promised land.
Yeah, so I personally don't know what to do with the idea of bull calf of the sun, specifically when it comes to Marduk stuff. I know there's a scholar who has written on the Odyssey. They end up on an island. There's the calf to the cat, or the cattle to the sun. and they make a vow that because they're starving, they're not supposed to eat the sun god, cattle. And they do. They break it. And of course, everyone who participates in it gets killed, just like everyone who participates in the golden calf worship gets killed, except for Aaron is the only one who gets to stay alive. They have to keep him alive for other reasons in the narrative. But I would say maybe both are pulling from the East, older stories. So you could have the Exodus pulling from these older stories that we're talking about today. You could also have the Odyssey. There are lots of scholars who point out that Homer's Odyssey seems to have drawing from the Near East. So there's likely something to this with Marduk and the older Gilgamesh stuff and all that. There's probably something to it. I would not bat an eye at all if the Greeks were already pulling from the East. The biblical text is pulling from the East and potentially even from the Greeks, depending on the situation. So the idea that also could Enuma Elish evolve as Lord Baal in the Bible? I mean, Baal is absolutely like a generic name that could be used, but it also is identified as a specific deity. And we know it's in Canaan. So it wouldn't shock me if they're just dealing with the local Baal of the territory and saying, hey, he's in competition with us. Wouldn't shock me one bit.
I mean, in the Baal cycle, you have Baal killing a sea god called Yavu, right? And a lot of people say, okay, that's probably Yahweh. But then later in time, when they became monotheistic, they just mixed everything together, and then Yahweh got the stories of Baal.
Right. There's so much.
Even the story in which he kills Yahweh.
Yeah. And then of course they both have a chaos conf where they fight against the sea, or they fight against drought, various things. Next super chat is IMA 1983. Thank you so much for the super chat. 12 tribes of Israel are from Egypt, who divided their territories into 12 in 1300 BC. Installed governors after 12 archons. There are pictures of this in Egypt. I haven't seen any of the pictures. I'd be curious to see what Egyptologists say about the images that are provided. However, I do know that Herodotus, the oldest voice we have from a Greek world, describes how there were 12. They were divided into 12s, and they would be rotating who was ruling the districts at the time and things like that. I can't remember the exact quote from Herodotus. I'd have to dig in and find out that source, but I know that's around 500-ish BCE. So we're dealing with, pretty ancient source. I don't know about the 1300 BCE thing, but I wouldn't be shocked if there was something there. I do know that
I'm not that familiar with Egyptian history and mythology, but there was a battle. I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure if it was Carchemish or something, where 12 nations or I don't know, city-states or whatever joined forces to fend off someone. I don't remember exactly, but and I mean that's Canaanite history, so I don't think we need to look so far away for a motif of 12 tribes.
I am going to ask here just to see if there's a source that not just Herodotus, but like if there's any Egyptology stuff that I can just draw from real quick to help answer this super chat, because I'm curious. Because I think there's a lot of stuff in Egypt that gets ignored by a lot of scholarship. They're not trained in it. It's hard to get someone who's learning hieroglyphics to also then learn about, all sorts of other material. So seems to be no evidence that the 12 tribes of Israel came from an Egyptian administrative system of 12 governors in 1300 BCE. Egypt did control Canaan in the late Bronze Age, and we do have Egyptian records and images showing Egyptian domination of Canaan. That is not the same thing as saying Egypt invented or divided Israel into 12 tribes. The earliest Egyptian reference to Israel is the Merneptah Stele. We all know is around 1208, 1205 BCE. It refers to Israel as a people group in Canaan, not as 12 Egyptian districts or governors. Egypt did dominate Canaan. We talked about that. The Amarna letters from the 14th century BCE show Canaanite city rulers, vassals, corresponding with Egypt. The Egyptian power was active in the Levant. The false leap is claiming the 12 tribes of Israel are from Egypt. The biblical 12-tribe system is an Israelite genealogical and ideological tradition centered on Jacob, Israel, and his sons. I wouldn't be shocked if you found a Greek comparison to the 12 tribes here, that is a later thing, because, again, the oldest source I know that deals with Egypt this way is, let me find that source. What is the Herodotus source for 12, I don't want to say tribes, but districts ruled in Egypt? Something like that. And I got my Herodotus somewhere on my, it's in my studio, or I pull it out. They divided Egypt into 12 portions and set up 12 kings. So that's Herodotus, book 2, paragraph 147. And then Herodotus then says these 12 kings intermarried and agreed not to overthrow one another. The story continues with an oracle saying that whichever one poured a libation with a bronze cup in the temple of Hephaestus, Ptah, would become king of all Egypt. This leads to, I'm going to butcher this, Psammetichus, Psammetichus, Psamtik the first, who accidentally uses his bronze helmet as the libation vessel and eventually becomes sole ruler. So anyway, it goes on, but I guess the Herodotus story is not about 1300 BCE. It's not, and it's not about Israel. So it's a leap just because we're seeing the 12 there to do that, but interesting. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. All right. Sorry to interrupt you. So you were right here, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is something that Tiamat says after she disagrees with the killing, right?
Right.
Just the next line, if you look at the numbers. Though their behavior causes distress, let us tighten discipline graciously.
And Pharaoh commanded, ye shall no more give the people straw to make brick, and heretofore let them go and gather straw for themselves. Let their more work be laid upon the men, that they may labor therein, and let them not regard vain words.
Yeah, so in both cases, the different solution to the problem is, just give them more work, right? Press them down, suppress them more. I mean, in the Enuma Elish, it doesn't explicitly say that, but later in the story, you have references to them, to the gods having a lot of work. So, I think that's still a match, yeah.
Okay. So now we're moving to flight.
Yeah. Mumu spoke up with counsel for Apsu. Destroy, my father, that lawless way of life. Apsu was pleased with him because he had plotted evil against the gods, his sons.
Moses spied an Egyptian smiting in Hebrew.
So both have a reason for the next line. The gods heard it and were frantic. Ea put Apsu to slumber, and as he poured out sleep, he bound Apsu and killed him.
And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
Okay, so both commit murder. Can you scroll up a bit?
Sure.
The gods took no rest. They addressed their mother Tiamat. When Apsu, your spouse, was killed, you gave... So here's the order is a bit different than in the Bible. I'll explain that later. The gods took no rest. They addressed their mother Tiamat. When Apsu, your spouse, was killed, you gave no thought to Apsu, your spouse. Make battle, avenge them. The speech pleased her. She said, let us make demons, as you have advised.
When Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses.
Okay, so both protagonists are now in mortal danger, right? He rested quietly in his chamber. He called it Apsu. And the Apsu temple in Eridu was actually the first temple with a basin, and that is probably where baptism comes from, by the way. So this location has a well, or maybe it refers to the sea. So it's at least a body of water either way.
Interesting. Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well.
Ea heard this matter. After he had reflected and his anger had subsided, he entered the presence of the father of his begetter, Anshar.
The priest of Midian had 7 daughters. He said, "How is it that ye are come so soon today?" And they said, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds."
Yeah, I highlighted this in Egyptian because someone recently argued that Moses was Egyptian. And here the Bible does say that. So both take refuge with a father figure. In the chamber of destinies, the wisest of the wise, the sage of the gods, Bel the Lord was conceived. That's Marduk. In Apsu was Marduk born. Ea his father begat him.
And he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom.
So both get a son. A nurse reared him and filled him with terror.
And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it.
Okay, so the thing that's a bit different here is in the Enuma Elish, Enki kills Apsu, and at first Tiamat doesn't decide to kill him. So he first gets his son, with his wife Ninhursag, of course, and then Tiamat decides to do something and to kill him, and then he flees to Anshar, and in the Exodus he kills the Egyptian. And immediately flees to Midian to a father figure and gets a son there, right? So that's a slight change of order of the events. But now Marduk is born, baby Marduk, whom you displeased, and I have to change.
Oh, you've been rocking multiple. Hold on. Now you got Marduk on. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Changing themes. And real quick, as we continue, Reformed Catholic Noahide, thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. It means a lot to have support. Appreciate it, man. So they said, to be honest, with all due respect, this is weak as of right now. If Exodus is borrowing, who is Malak Yahweh in the Elish? Huh. Who would you say?
In Enuma Elish, you have Ea and Marduk, of course, and some other gods also appear. But the characters of Moses and Aaron and Yahweh are mixing around, and
because I always point to Ea Inki. That's always a good go-to for Yahweh in many cases. But you could even go to Enlil. You can go to different deities and see that they're repackaged. Because when you're dealing with one god, if they're using the story, they're not handing the role off to different gods. They're either going to let the human protagonist take over the role, or it's going to be God that takes over the role. They usually don't allow, for the pantheon to be. So you're kind of forced to have to make sense of it that way. And we have really good reasons, obviously, no matter what Wes Huff tries to sell people, that Genesis is borrowing. It is absolutely in competition with older Mesopotamian traditions. And so when you do that, you're going to, rewrite, correct. But in order to do that, you have to borrow from. You have to model it after while you're correcting the older material. So there's this interesting to wonder, who do you pin the tail on the donkey in and when? You know what I mean? Like, when do you put oh, that's in, oh no, great question though, that Reformed Catholic Noahide had. And by the way, I don't want to diminish IMA 1983's question. It's a good question. I don't know enough about Egypt, so I'm the wrong one to really give you like a solid, but I do recommend Herodotus as source, because he hints at this 12 in Egypt. That's an interesting point. So anyway, thanks so much, Reform. Appreciate that. So where are we at so far? We've done overpopulation, and some that comes with that. Even the numbers are, there's 600 and there's 600,000, right? You've got the flight, which takes place, and the death of a potential child in both cases. You have a water source in both cases. You have you highlighted the Egyptian part here, and they both have sons.
Take refuge as a father figure.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Now
two small fun facts. Did you know that Enki confounded the languages?
No, I didn't, but it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. I think isn't that in a different story though, not in this one?
Yeah. That's in I think Enmerkar and the Lord of Aratta.
Okay, because I think there's another one too. So it's not just that one then. I think that Russell Gamirkin shows in his green book that he did a while back that there's overlap with the confounding of tongues, and the judgment of the Babel situation parallels this older story where their languages get confused as well. And it's not the name you mentioned, so it must be another source. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I might be remembering it wrong. Another fun fact is that Enki's holy number is 40.
Enki's number is 40, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm almost 40. Okay. Couple years away from being 40, so.
Okay, so after fleeing from the mortal danger, Ansha heard the matter was profoundly disturbing. He cried woe and bit his lip. My son, you who provoked the war, take responsibility for whatever you alone have done.
And the Lord said, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me. I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
So both are sent back to by a god, right? So, consider that I performed a helpful deed before I killed Apsu. Who would have seen the present situation?
And Moses said unto God, who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt?
Yeah, so I think that's a bit of a weaker link, but both protagonists disagree, which is kind of weird in the Bible, right? If you disagree with God in the Bible, bam, he smites you, right?
Yeah, so both of them are disagreeing with the deity.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but then Ansha says, go before Tiamat and appease her attack, her fury, with your incantation.
And he said, certainly I will be with thee.
Yeah, so the god then reassures him that he can go. And this is much later in the text in Enuma Elish, but it talks about Marduk brought all the fugitive gods into the shrines.
I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt unto a land flowing with milk and honey.
He took the road to her, proceeded on the route to her.
And Moses took his wife and his sons and set them up upon an ass. And he returned to the land of Egypt, and Moses took the rod of God in his hand.
Yeah, okay, so now both of them return. Here the order is a bit different again, because in the Bible you first have the council, and then you have Moses and Aaron going to the Pharaoh several times. In Enuma Elish, this happens differently. You first have different gods going to Tiamat, and because they all fail, they then have the council later. But
So you want me to read this one?
Yeah.
And the Lord said to Aaron, go into the wilderness desert to meet Moses. And he went and he met him in the mount of God and kissed him.
Kaka went to Lachmu and Lachamu. All the great gods gathered as they went. They entered the presence of Anshar and became filled with joy. They kissed one another as they something in the assembly.
And Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel.
Yeah, so a lot of influential people are being gathered together. They also have a feast, which, if you really want to, I won't stop you from connecting that to Passover, but I think that would be too much of a stretch.
Yeah, that's where you put this here. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, for one thing, they have alcohol, and on the Passover feast, they don't. So, I think that wouldn't... that's not good enough for me to count.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Okay.
He gave the command, and the constellation disappeared. With a second command, the constellation came into being again.
And Aaron spake all the words which the Lord has spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people.
So both of them do magic tricks. When the gods, his fathers, saw the effect of his utterance, they rejoiced and offered congratulation. Marduk is the king. They added to him a mace, a throne, and a rod.
The people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel, that he had looked upon their affliction, when they bowed their heads and worshipped.
Yeah, so the congregation accepts the new leader. Again, in Enuma Elish, this happens first, that multiple gods go to Tiamat. Scroll down.
Okay. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent.
He went. He perceived the tricks of Tiamat.
Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers. They also did in like manner with their enchantments.
Yeah, so both of the bad guys create serpents. That happens quite early in Enuma Elish. I wouldn't necessarily count that as a match, but I mean, both create serpents, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. Mother Hubur gave birth to giant serpents. They had sharp teeth. They were merciless. With poison instead of blood, she filled their bodies. She clothed the fearful monsters with dread.
For they cast down every man his rod. They became serpents, but Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods.
This is, I think, a quite interesting part here. He stopped, fell silent, and turned back. He entered the presence of Anshar. My father, Tiamat's deeds are too much for me. I perceived her planning, and my incantation was not equal to it.
And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore. I hate King James English, man. Heretofore, hithereth, heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue.
Yeah, so that's a really weird part in the Bible, right? So that Moses says, "Oh, I'm bad at speaking," which never ever comes up again, but it makes sense in context of the Enuma Elish, where you also have something like that. Enki, when he stands in front of Tiamat, he cannot speak because she's too powerful. He's too afraid or something, and he's unable to speak, and therefore returns unsuccessfully.
By the way, someone said there is alcohol at the Feast of Passover.
No.
So maybe you go back and look at that one carefully whenever you get time. Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah. We're learning too, ladies and gentlemen. We're learning as we go. So that's interesting. This idea of being afraid to approach the deity. Well, specifically Tiamat terrifies. Marduk isn't terrified, but most other people are, other deities are. Moses it's a little spin a little, but you could see he's not feeling confident at all approaching Pharaoh, because, you know, Pharaoh's clearly going to be expecting someone who's going to make a good case, and he doesn't think he can do it. Pharaoh's also considered a god, you know, in the Egyptian pantheon, just saying. But yeah, that's an interesting consideration.
Yeah, then there's a longer passage where then Anu goes to Tiamat, and yeah, basically the same thing happens. It's almost word for word identical. That's a bit boring.
Yeah.
And of course, in Exodus, you have Moses and Aaron going to Pharaoh 10 times, right? And and God prevents the Pharaoh from accepting their request, right?
Right.
Okay, then this is again tablet 7, so something in the end, like something talking in general about Marduk or something, but it says there Marduk extirpated foes and destroyed their offspring.
At midnight, the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
Yeah, so both these gods kill the children of the enemies, right? Ansha addressed Kaka, his vizier. I will send you to Lachmu and Lachamu. You are skilled in making inquiry, learned in address.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, Is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well. Yeah,
so both gods praise someone else's verbal skills, right? And that's why, Aaron is then thrown into the story in Exodus, and Kaka is the one who gathers all the gods for the council, right? The council happens after the unsuccessful pleading in Enuma Elish.
Interesting.
Go, be gone, Kaka. Stand before them and repeat to them all that I tell you.
And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth. And I will be with thy mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do.
Yeah, so both messengers get their messages from the guy who sends them. Again, in Enuma Elish, you have this council after the unsuccessful pleading, right? So different gods went to talk to Tiamat, failed, and then they gather and start thinking, oh, what can we do now? So
right. Real quick, before we continue, I do have a super chat here again. IMA 1983, thank you so much. Baal means Lord. Wonder how many times in the Bible this has been translated wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Marduk is also called Baal, right? Or Baal for Lord.
Yeah. So I mean, the Hebrew word Baal can mean Lord, master. It can mean owner or husband. Even it can literally just refer to your husband, or it could even refer to the Canaanite storm fertility god, which we think Yahweh's adopting a lot of the identity from, at least the storm attributes and some of the other potential attributes. So it doesn't necessarily or automatically mean they translate it wrong every time. The context, you know what I mean? Context.
Yeah. And in Germany, we worship the god of Fußball.
Yeah, Fußball.
We love soccer.
yeah. Football is what we do today. Yeah, football.
Fußball is a German word.
And in you know, obviously in many countries, football is soccer. But again, we talk about throwing the pigskin, you know what I mean? And everybody's looking forward to the football teams. But yeah, no, I do wonder, are there any examples where maybe scholars thought that Baal or Bel meant just, you know, Lord or Master, and it was referring to something else, but it was actually the divinity? I don't know. I mean, I haven't dug through every example in the Hebrew Bible that talks about the meaning of the word Baal, and you know, I imagine most critical Hebrew Bible scholars would understand the context and be able to say, oh no, that's referring to that false deity. Then you have some places where you even hints at Yahweh being called it. You shall no longer call him Baali, you know, my Lord. they want you to stop using that. Hosea talks about Yahweh has been called Baal. They don't want you to say Yahweh's called Baal anymore, because that's obviously a false god's title. And whoever the author of, Hosea isn't a fan of using that term. So it's an interesting question. I've never considered taking the time and going, let me see, what's going on with this term and how it's used by the Hebrew translators, if you will. Anyway, sorry for the detraction from the Enuma Elish here, but it's a great question. Thank you so much. And thanks for the support. All right. Now this one isn't doing a parallel side-by-side. It's just...
Right.
Okay.
Right. This is some differences. And yeah, as I already said, Enuma Elish doesn't have 10 plagues, right?
Right.
I mean, you do have plagues in other stories like Ishtar and Shukaletuda, for example, where Ishtar turns water into blood, for example. But I don't see a parallel to the 10 plagues in Enuma Elish. So, then one thing in Enuma Elish, it is described how Marduk, and that's in the story at this point. So that's why I put this the non-comparison there.
Gotcha.
So Marduk mounts his chariot and he takes his bow and arrow and spear, and that doesn't happen in the Exodus in that form. So neither Moses or Yahweh do that. Do you want to read Habakkuk 3 together, or
we can? Do you want me to pull that up?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. Let's go to crossbible.com. Anyone who's using the Bible online, just go to crossbible.com. That's your place. So we're going to Habakkuk. There we go. And you said chapter 3?
Yeah.
Which verse?
8 to 15.
I like the NRSV. Okay, 8 through 15. Want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
Oh, let you do that.
Okay. Was your wrath against the rivers, O Lord, or your anger against the rivers, or your rage against the sea? I imagine these are probably divinities of some sort. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, like the chaos waters, like a Tiamat. Okay. When you drove your horses, your chariots to victory, you brandished your naked bow and sated. Were the arrows at your command? Selah. You split the earth with rivers. The mountains saw you and writhed. A torrent of water swept by. The deep gave forth its voice. The sun raised high its hands. The moon stood still in exalted place at the light of your arrows speeding by, at the gleam of your flashing spear. In fury, you marched on the earth. In anger, you trampled nations. You came forth to save your people, to save your anointed. You crushed the head of the wicked house, laying it bare from foundation to roof. Selah. You pierced with their own arrows the head of his warriors, who came like a whirlwind to scatter us, gloating as if ready to devour the poor who were in hiding. Where do I stop?
After 15.
Okay. You trampled the sea with your horses and churning the mighty waters.
Yeah, okay. I used a different translation where it says there that he...
Which translation did you use?
King James.
Okay, let me go to the King James here real quick. We'll go 16:11. Let's see what happens. So are you talking about this verse?
Go a bit up.
Okay. Oh, look at this. It's got the U's or V's. Let me go. We got to at least get like the language has to match.
Yes.
At least.
Yes.
Okay. So which verse are you talking about?
I'm a bit confused right now.
So going back up, right? You said 8, right?
Let me find that in the source that I used.
I just know that in English, when it talks about the sea, you'd have to look at the Greek or the Hebrew, specifically, most likely the Hebrew, but you might get the sea called thalassa, but it could just mean the sea. I mean, generally, but a lot of times in the Hebrew Bible, it is referring to Yam, or it is referring to, the chaos monster. It's a chaos comp. And this is a battle that's being described by the divinity. The divinity is doing the battle for them. So this is an important
point. It says that the Lord is riding a chariot, right? It's
which I agree. Your point is that this narrative parallels God fighting for the Israelites against the Egyptians, especially when you find them coming out to try and capture them, and they splits the sea and of course destroys the enemies. The enemies are on chariots in that episode, but again, I see what you're saying. This is I imagine this is probably older than the Exodus narrative that we have, and so there is this depiction that God is going to battle for you against your enemies. And the chaos waters that get split, the Red Sea, that is also very much mythological. That is in the same vein of the creation story that we find in Genesis 1, the splitting of the sea. You find this again with Exodus, and you find this again here. So I wanted to give you time to find what you were looking for.
I think the point of that was mainly that there's a chariot and God has a spear and a bow and an arrow and horses. That's all stuff that Marduk also has. And I think even in the same order.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we don't dwell on it too long. I mean.
Yeah. Let's continue.
Okay. So Habakkuk 3:18, 8 through 15, we got that. So now we're at Tiamat has an ally, Kingu.
Tiamat has this guy Kingu, and Egypt doesn't really have something like that, right?
Nope.
You've changed the.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking for the next verse, the Isaiah 51. Sorry. Go ahead and finish, and then I'll change it.
Okay, so there's no such ally, but Isaiah 51, 9 to 13 mentions a character named Rahab and a dragon, and connects that with a way in the depth of the sea for the redeemed. Then Isaiah 27:8 names the dragon Leviathan in connection with the day of the east wind, which also connects to Exodus. And so I am very willing to conclude that there used to be a dragon named Leviathan fighting at the side of something called or someone called Rahab.
Interesting. So the dragon in Rahab in Isaiah is Leviathan, or at least, interchangeable with the same mythological being that plays along with Rahab, is your point.
I think these are verses that talk about a version of Exodus that we don't have anymore, right? An older version where you had a character named Rahab and an ally called Leviathan, and very much a chaos battle in Exodus, because it's talking about the day of the east wind. It's talking about a way in the depths of the sea.
Yeah, right? It just doesn't call it a dragon, right? And you see how they demythologized it? It's still mythological, but it's like...
Yeah, I've seen it translated as an alligator.
Yeah. That's wild. So I don't even need to pull that up. I think everybody's heard of Rahab, and I'm not talking about the prostitute. I'm talking about Rahab, the divine chaos monster, and then of course the dragon Leviathan. Yam also gets brought up. You could go to other cultures and find Lotan, which is also Leviathan. It's the same monster. Okay.
Yeah, or Redamu in Hurrian mythology. I always have to cram Hurrian mythology.
You gotta get. I mean, it's all part of the same. Yeah, soup. Same soup.
Yeah. This Rahab in Hebrew is spelled Resh He Bet, and when you translate that, it means arrogance. And arrogance is an attribute of Tiamat, so she is explicitly called arrogant in Tablet 4, line 77.
That's a good one. That's. I think that's interesting.
Then there is a Mesopotamian dragon chaos monster called Labu, and according to the Wikipedia article about this Labu, I'm not taking credit for that. This can also be pronounced Rebu, and then Rebu, Rahab, maybe cognate. So
that's a question to ask, right? $1 million question to ask the philologists who know this language. Hey, what's up? Is there something potentially related between Rahab and Rebu?
Yeah. The reference down there is just from the Wikipedia page.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then there's one thing that I'm not exactly sure what to make of it, but I sent you a link. I think it's the first tab you have there.
This one? Hercules seal.
That's a quite recent find. I think only 2 years ago. A seal was found in Israel depicting this fight there. I think northern Israel. Depicting a fight where some character spears a 7-headed snake, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, it looks like it's got almost like, I want to say seraphim type of, in the upper left. It looks kind of like the serpent, the venomous serpent. I'm not sure if it's a seraphim or if it would just be like a venomous serpent that you see Egypt typically has, that kind of symbolism. I could pull up an image, but then down lower, it looks more like cherubim. Like it looks, the winged creatures here, like animals / wing / lion's tail kind of thing. And then you do see the 7 heads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you get the 7-headed beast. You know, this reminds me of Ninurta 7-headed dragon. This one's older, but this is actually based on a seashell. This is ancient Sumerian, of course, Ninurta fighting the 7-headed dragon. That's a better little, everybody should be able to see that easier. And you can see the 7 heads. It's like a leopard body / dragon / what the heck do we make out of this, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is Hercules doing the same thing.
Yeah, the interesting thing is this is dated 2,800 years old. And I think it says in the article that would be older than any references to Hercules in Greek mythology.
Interesting. Well, it would make a lot of sense. I mean, here's a better AI upgraded version of it. I just threw that in there to try and get a better quality out of it. But that it makes sense when you have Gilgamesh, who I think is the OG, okay, the original gangster. And then after him, you end up getting like the Phoenician version, Melkart, right? Which is like it's the Phoenician Hercules, who also dies by a pyre, and of course is divinized and worshipped on select days. We get this in Josephus. He mentions this, but we also have like actual, I could actually pull up the book if we wanted to get into the dying and rising gods and show people. But Mettinger, I believe it was Trygve Mettinger, actually goes in his book and shows Melkart was worshipped. In fact, I wish I could pull it up on this computer. I don't have all my books transferred to the new computer yet. But yeah, there's something going on with Hercules and these characters. Samson is another one in the Bible. You know, all of that. Interesting stuff.
I've compared Samson and Hercules. There's some really interesting similarities.
Yeah. But I do think, wouldn't you think that Gilgamesh, I mean, you might even go back to like these gods that we're talking about playing a role, fighting the chaos dragon. I mean, your heroes are going to do what the gods do. So the gods are fighting chaos. Well, Heracles is always fighting chaos. And then you end up getting other figures who fight chaos in different ways. Death is battled by Baal. Jesus fights death, right? Like in a unique way, they spin the story, of course, in a different way. But it's all like a repetitive. If you're writing a story, it has the same start lowly, work high, and then boom, there's a catabasis and then another anabasis, powerful stuff. Anyway. Yeah. Want me to go back to this?
Yep. Okay.
Now we're in the battle. We're at the halfway mark.
Haven't we talked about Psalm 74? I thought it was in there too, but if we could talk about Psalm 74:14, I think that would be a bit interesting at this point.
Let's do it then. Let's do it. Psalm 74.
14.
74. Now, King James, or does it matter? There's thou breakest. I mean, bro, if I ever spoke like this somewhere, in like they would look at me. Let's see what NRSV does, because I like this translation. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave him as food for the creatures of the wilderness.
Yeah, that creatures of the wilderness is really a weird translation. I've looked at the Hebrew text actually, and I don't speak Hebrew.
Yeah.
But I'm trying my best with doitinhebrew.com to make sense of stuff.
What did it say? What's it seem to say on your end?
It gives Leviathan as food to the people, and then if you open that link that I sent you, the yellow one.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's Psalm 74, and there's the last word in
which verse is it?
14.
Okay.
The last word. On the left you have that in Hebrew, and the last word, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's Lamech Tzadi Yod Mem. And this Yod Mem in the end, of course, is just plural, right? And the Lamech in the beginning means just of the or to the or something like that. So the actual word is just this Tzadi Yod. And if you throw that into do it in Hebrew, one of the translations is desert creatures. So the people of the desert or something, I think makes sense. So I'm thinking that when the Hebrews wandered through the desert for 40 years, they didn't get bread. They get the flesh of Leviathan originally.
So the manna might be, you're thinking, the destruction of Leviathan in a sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But again, it's really weird to translate that. If you translate the whole word, it says fleets, which makes no sense for me. And but one thing really blew my mind at that point, and that is fleet is the name of one of Marduk's horses.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know what to do with that. I mean,
I'm not sure either, but another one of his horses is named Destroyer.
Interesting.
Do you know any character named Destroyer in the Exodus?
Destroyer, the angel of death, right?
Yeah, the character that kills the Egyptian children, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so you have more puzzles, more stuff to look into to get you should
but
write.
I think that's a bit far-fetched. So
yeah. You
it's
should
just
write
fun to throw
that's
it.
What I'm saying. You should do a fun book, like a short book on this, and just be like, look at this. What do you think? Yeah.
Okay. So
back to our narration.
Yeah.
You do the left for those who are just not tuning in. And Enuma Elish is getting read on the left by Victor, and I'm going to do Exodus on the right, and we're going to continue paralleling.
Yeah. So now that we have explained the quite big difference between the battles, there's still a lot of parallels in the battles.
Gotcha.
So Tiamat gathered together her creation and organized battle against the gods, her offspring.
And it was told the king of Egypt, that the people fled, and he made ready his chariot and took his people with him.
So both of them collect their supporters. He fashioned the evil wind, the dust storm, tempest, the fourfold wind, the sevenfold wind, the chaos-spreading wind, the something wind. He sent out the 7 winds that he had fashioned, and they took their stand behind him to harass Tiamat's entrails.
And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them. But it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night.
Marduk, this is again something from really late on the 7th tablet. Marduk, who kept crossing the broad sea in his fury and kept crossing over the place of her battle. So her referring to Tiamat. So the battle effectively took place at sea.
Got it.
And a bit later,
you could have. I feel like you could have it included, even though you didn't need to. You could just say there's a battle at a sea in the Exodus, and it's when the Egyptians try to go through to kill the children of Israel, and of course they're swallowed up. Okay, by the sea.
Yeah.
You know,
we come to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that parallels right. Got it.
So in Enuma Elish, this happens after the battle, but he split her into 2 like dried fish.
And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the waters were divided.
Okay. Now please go to the tab. Oh, I think you don't have it open.
I opened the ones you sent me. So there's that's just the image that I had ChatGPT. There's this one. There's Labu.
It's a Wikipedia page about Tihama.
Tihama.
I'm quite sure
it's
I
this
sent
one.
you that.
Yeah. This
yes.
one. Okay.
Yes.
So let's crop it in a little.
So I'm not sure since when this has been the case, but it completely blows my mind that the coast of the Arabian Peninsula to the Red Sea is named Tihama.
So what the Fizmucka Maximus? I mean, bro, Tiamat, okay, Tehom, Tiamat, right? And then you have literally the Red Sea coastal plain. So if we're looking at this map, right here on the left, you can see it. Let me see if I can't crop it in even more. It keeps wanting to make the visuals smaller. Let me see. Here we go. So right here on the left, Tihama, Hijaz, Tihama, Yemen. So I'd like to talk to someone who's a linguist. They really need to look at that, because that obviously leads up to where the Red Sea is, where they would have had to cross to go into this region here. Interesting.
Yeah, so in a way you can say splitting Tiamat is splitting the Red Sea. Right?
Yeah, in a way. I wonder, man, you got my brain wanting to, like, I'm going to have to ask someone who knows this, and just, there's got to be someone who's written on this right here. Tiamat is the Proto-Semitic language's term for sea. Tiamat was, so it could just be the name of sea, right? Again, but like, is it coincidence that a sea is split? Okay. Yeah. And the creation myth, the chaos Kampf, is literally the splitting of the sea. Is that all coincident, or is there something going on here? I think there's something going on here, but
yeah,
good one.
I think the Babylonian word for sea is Tiantu, I think, if I remember correctly. So they are also the word is very close to the word for sea. So,
dude, wild.
Yeah, but that's a real mind blower, right?
Yeah, like, so then the question I would have is just like, how old is that naming of that? You see,
yes.
So
I don't know that.
Yeah, because if this is later, it's still interesting that etymologically it's related, but then again, it would be because it's a sea, so you would expect that. But like, still, It's still a splitting of a sea. I would say it's related no matter what, because we're dealing with a body of water and chaos in a battle that is being split, So I'm just curious to know how far back we can go. This is the history. So era of Muhammad, of course, they're going to have that. I just don't know how old I'm not sure how old the naming of this territory would be that. So that's
I don't know that. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Got me thinking, man. It got me thinking.
Okay, then let's continue.
Okay.
He let loose the evil wind, the rear guard, in her face.
A strong east wind all that night made the sea dry land.
Then again, something from late in the story, tablet 7. Marduk kept crossing over the place of her battle, as though it were a bridge. So he's crossing water without getting wet.
Yeah. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if I shouldn't read that as Marduk walking on water,
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't jump to that just because it does say it's like a bridge.
Yeah.
But I do think I see what you're saying in terms of they're not getting wet, and Tiamat is literally water. Like, so the fact that he's able to cross over her and yet not get wet, that's, I think, the important point, because you would expect they can't walk. They're going to walk. It's going to be obviously wet. No, it's dry. So there's something there. There's some, at least to say, if you're making a connection, this, you can see why it would make sense to make. If you're rewriting a story later and you saw this and you're demythologizing a narrative into anthropomorphic people doing things that many of the gods seem to be doing over here, you could see how they could do that.
Okay. As Kingu looked, he lost his nerve. His determination went, and he faltered. His divine aides, who were marching at his side, saw the warrior, the foremost, and their vision became dim.
And the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians.
Yeah, so the bad guys become afraid, right? Her assembly dispersed, her host scattered, her divine aides, who went beside her in trembling and fear, beat a retreat to save their lives.
The Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians."
Yeah, so they are trying to run away. Bel lifted up the storm flood, his great weapon, and with these words threw it at the raging Tiamat.
And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength.
So both are using a flood as a weapon. But they were completely surrounded, unable to escape. He trampled them beneath him.
And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea.
Yeah, so the bad guys die. Bel placed his feet on the lower parts of Tiamat, and with his merciless club smashed her skull.
Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces. We read that earlier.
Yeah. That's from Isaiah. That's not in Exodus, but
got it.
Yeah. Bel rested, surveying the corpse.
And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. By the way, I still, even not jumping to Isaiah, I think reading the Exodus story, you're right to point us to Isaiah, the mythological narration, because the non-mythological, it's still mythology, but it's demythologized mythology in the Exodus narrative. You're still getting the Leviathan story. You're getting the narration of Isaiah, but you're getting it in a much more story form that is demythologized. So I like that you quote Isaiah, but again, ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't have to go there. He wants you to see it so you understand the deeper mythological roots, yet you could just read Exodus and see the story play out and why this is an important aspect. So anyway, I just figured I'd make that point for you.
Yeah. In both stories, the good guys look at the corpses of the bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Continue.
There's only a bit of a difference because in Enuma Elish, Marduk first kills Tiamat, then kills her allies, and then splits her up, right? And in Exodus, God splits the sea and then uses that as a weapon to kill the allies, and okay. Then after the battle, the Igigi assembled, and all did obeisance to him. Every one of the Anunnaki was kissing his feet.
Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously.
So, they are both praised, right?
Mm-hmm.
He took up his club and held it in his right hand.
Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy.
That line, which is in Exodus, unlike the other one, sounds a bit different right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, then something from later in the story again. Marduk opened watercourses and distributed plentiful water.
Smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it.
Anu lifted Marduk's bow up in this divine assembly. He kissed the bow, saying, It is my daughter.
And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with Moses' wife, Jethro's daughter, unto Moses, and Moses kissed him.
Yeah, in Enuma Elish, this I think is the creation of one of the what's the English word? Constellations.
Interesting.
Yeah. His fathers saw it and were glad and exulted. They brought gifts and presents to him.
And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God.
Yeah, so father figures bring presents. The 7 gods of destinies were appointed to give decisions.
And Moses chose able men, and they judged the people at all seasons.
Yeah, judges are appointed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all spoke up together. Henceforth, you are the caretaker of our shrine. Whatever you command, we will do.
And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Lord hath said, will we do, and be obedient.
He took from Kingu the tablet of destinies, which was not properly his. And note at this point, in the Ansumis, it is implied that the tablet was created by Mami, which is an epithet of Ninchozan, which is the mountain goddess.
Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount. I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments which I have written.
Yeah, so Marduk gets the tablet that was created by a mountain goddess, and Moses gets the 10 commandments on a mountain, right? Mother Damkina, another epithet of Ninchozan, the lady of the mountain who bore him, hailed him with a clean festal robe. She made his face shine.
When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, the skin of his face shone.
Yeah, look at that. You have Marduk talking to the mountain goddess, and then his face shines, and Moses comes down from Mount Sinai and his face shines. You had Dr. Aaron Adair on recently, right? And
yes.
I think you talked about this point, and he said that, well, the face shining is a common motif, so we might not make too much of this, but in the Enuma Elish, this is the only place where anybody's face shines, and in the Bible, this is the only place where a human's face shines. So God's face shines at some points. I think Jesus, and apart from that, I think in Psalms or something metaphorical face shining. But this is the only place in the entire Bible where a human's face shines after coming down from a mountain.
Yeah, and Jesus, it's not just his face; it's his whole everything. So you can't. Of course, it's imitating Moses to some degree, but it's going beyond that. It has his whole body, shining. even his clothes glow with like brighter than the sun. So in this case, yeah, that's an interesting thing to look at. I don't know. I'd have to dig into this even further, right? Because we do have Hammurabi receiving, law codes on a mountain, or at least it's depicted in the imagery. So let me just pull that up real quick. Hammurabi.
Yeah, he gets
laws
from the sun god, right? From
Shamash. Yeah. Shamash here. I want a full picture one, and then I'd like to just get a cropped in version, because the way that we'll let you, everyone knows or should know in this picture I'm going to show you here in just a second. Let me get a better one, actually. Let me see. Yeah, let's take this one so it's not sideways. I'm going to try and improve this image here quality so we can all look at it a little closer. But in this, it doesn't talk about his face shining from what I understand, but other elements are common here. The god on the right, which is Shamash, the sun god, who has the rays of sun that's shining over his shoulders. That's Hammurabi on the left. But if you look carefully, you'll notice the god is on a mountain. The under his feet, the footstools represent a mountain. And so he's going to get the law from this god. This might even be a better depiction, but it looks like it's a drawing of it. That these are supposed to be mountains under his feet. I don't know if you could see that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So from what I understand, Shamash is, sitting upon the mountains, which isn't uncommon. I mean, everybody's on a mountain, right? Giving out the law codes, though. And the crazy part is in the picture here, which you can't see worth a crap, you see the law codes underneath them on this huge obelisk. So that's what I think is fascinating, is that here he is, all the laws are being written down beneath, and he's upon a mountain giving them to his servant Hammurabi, who's a king too. So he's an important figure. I find that fascinating personally. But anyway,
eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and son for a son. If you cause the death of somebody's son, they are allowed to kill your son.
yeah, it's pretty raw stuff.
Yeah,
pretty raw. I don't know if I need to, but I could do this just to give people more to work with here. Let me do this. Boom. So let's go here. Yeah. So underneath his feet here is supposed to be, it's not only his footstool, but it's supposed to represent the mountains from my understanding. And I can't remember which Assyriologist pointed that out to me, but someone mentioned that this is symbolic of him. It's symbolism, right? It's like the rod, of course, is also symbolic. Like there's a lot of symbolism in a lot of this art, but he's giving out the law codes, but you don't get the face shining aspect here. I believe Francesca Stavrakopoulos goes in her book God and Anatomy and explains the shining of the face in one of these older stories too. But anyway, all right, enough of me trying to run into little rabbit trails. I just thought I'd give people more visuals.
I love rabbit holes.
Back
then when I started reading about the mythology of Sumer and Babylon, for a month I had like 50 tabs open of unread Wikipedia pages, and every time I read one, another god, another tab opened, another god, another tab opened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Tablet 5, line 91 is missing, but from the context, it is very clear that Marduk must be washing himself there.
Okay. Aaron and his sons, thou shalt bring and shalt wash them with water.
He clothed himself in his lordly robe.
And thou shalt take the garments and put upon Aaron the coat and the robe of the ephod and the ephod.
He took the tablet of destinies and fastened it to his own breast.
And the breastplate, and gird him with the curious girdle of the ephod.
With a crown of terror as a royal aura.
And thou shalt put the mitre upon his head, and put the holy crown upon the mitre.
Anointing his body with something cedar perfume.
Then shalt thou take the anointing oil, and pour it upon his head, and anoint him.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So Marduk prepares himself very much in the same way. I think it's even not exactly in the same order, but And the breastplate, he takes that earlier, but
Okay.
And the reason why I think that he washes himself in line 91 is because in line 90 he is dirty from the battle, and in line 92 he anoints himself with
lordly robe.
Expensive. 92 is where he anoints himself with perfume and stuff, and I think you wouldn't do that when you are still dirty, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. No, that makes sense.
From Kingu's blood, Ea created mankind, on whom he imposed the service of the gods and set the gods free. Yeah, the whole point of the story.
Yeah.
Let food offerings be brought for their gods and goddesses.
And thou shalt cause a bullock to be brought before the tabernacle of the congregation, and Aaron and his sons shall put their hands upon the head of the bullock.
Let Marduk burn incense to rejoice their sanctums.
And Aaron shall burn sweet incense every morning.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
I mean, it works. You know what I mean? It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're at building, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Above the Apsu, the emerald abode, beneath the celestial parts whose floor I made firm, I will build a house to be my luxurious abode. I shall call its name Babylon, the homes of the great gods. Within it we will hold a festival that will be the evening festival.
Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the Lord God, or the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. Also they saw God and did eat and drink.
Yeah, what do you think about that parallel? Because
I mean, come on. There's a lot there, right? So the Apsu, above the Apsu, for those who don't know, the Apsu is often underworld waters. Like it's life-giving. It could be life-giving, but they're waters. The emerald, right? This is obviously a stone of some sort that is similar to what we're finding here with sapphire, and under his feet, as it were, paved of sapphire stone. So you have emerald. I'm likely imagining the emeralds like the Apsu underneath, the body of heaven, you get this, whose floor I made firm. I will build a house of my luxurious abode. So it seems like a reflection of creation, right? In a sense, it's like a reflection of creation, but it's also seemingly a reflection of the home of the great gods, maybe even the temple in Babylon, maybe even the place, Babylon itself, the city. Kind of like people say about the creation story in Genesis. They go, well, it is cosmological, but it also seems to hint at the Jerusalem temple in many ways. A lot of people think that it's reflective of the temple, yet it's also reflected of the cosmos. And so that's what I think about that.
Yeah. I mean, the parallel is, that's actually a parallel that you have to look at sideways and squint, right? But on the other hand, this is so peculiar that I don't think that these two sources would come up with this independently, right? So, comparing the floor with some jewelry, right? And talking about the floor being made firm, and then eating and drinking, having a festival. Right?
That's the other part. Yeah, I didn't even mention. There's a lot there.
Yeah. So although you have to look at it sideways and squint, I think that's actually one of the strongest parallels, because it's just so peculiar.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. The Anunnaki addressed their Lord Marduk. Now, Lord, seeing you have established our freedom, what favor can we do for you? Let us make a shrine of great renown. When Marduk heard this, he became as brightly as the light of day. Build Babylon, the task you have sought. Let bricks for it be molded and raise the shrine.
Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. According to all that I shew thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle shall ye make it.
For 1 year they made the needed bricks.
Ye shall
That's
know.
from much earlier. The Exodus part is from much earlier in the story, but it talks also about bricks. So
yeah,
I think
ye shall no more give the people straw to make bricks, as heretofore. I hate that word. Let them go and gather straw for themselves.
They raised the peak of Esagil, the second most important temple of Babylon, a replica of the Apsu.
And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was shewed thee in the mount. You want me to read that? Rabbinical commentary and tradition often interprets this to mean that Moses saw heaven and was tasked with creating an earthly reflection of it. The Holy of Holies is understood to be a direct reflection of the heavenly throne room of God.
Yeah, so both create a copy of heaven on earth. After they had completed the work on Esagil, Baal seated the gods, his fathers, at the banquet, saying, "This is Babylon, your fixed dwelling. Take your pleasure here. Sit down, enjoy."
Now, this one's from Leviticus, but if any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. And the priest, Aaron's sons, shall lay the offering upon the wood that is on the fire, which is upon the altar.
Yeah, so both have a feast after the battle. I thought about connecting it with the feast around the golden calf, but I think the golden calf comes from the Odyssey, right? So
you've read those parallels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the cattle of Helios. So I didn't want to connect that.
Yeah, there's something
Leviticus
to it.
1 seemed close enough still.
Right.
Okay, and now after all this is done,
just going to creation now.
Yeah. Marduk does the following. One half of her he set up and stretched out as the heavens. He stretched the skin and appointed a watch.
The Lord that hath stretched forth the heavens.
That's from Isaiah 51 again. That's an interesting one, by the way. First of all, this clearly refers to the universe expanding, right?
No.
And that proves that Marduk is real, because how could the Babylonians know? How could the Babylonians know that the universe is expanding if it wasn't the creator of the universe telling them?
Those arguments get so freaking old. Oh my gosh. It's wild when people do that, you know. They don't realize they'll do it with the Bible or the Quran, but why do they stop short, you know? So anyway.
Yeah. But the thing here is, on the Bible side, this isn't from Exodus, it's from Isaiah.
Right.
And when I saw the line in Enuma Elish, I thought, oh, stretching out the heavens. That's in the Bible. I know that. Yes. I will just find one and link it to that. And then I filtered the Bible with my tools that I use, looking for a line that fits. And I just thought, holy Marduk, this is one of the
same section. Yeah.
Yes, it's actually from one of the chapters that I'm already referring to. Right. So I don't even have to add another.
You're reference. Not jumping completely. Yeah. But that was our point earlier. It was like the prophets. See, a lot of the scholars I like that I'm reading, and there is a debate on when some of the stuff was written, but a lot of the PhDs that are Hebrew Bible scholars, I think almost unanimously, whether they fall in the minimalist camp or in the more mediocre camp, all the way maximalist, depends on who you're talking to. But you've got this usually a moderate dater, and then you have a minimalist dater that I'm usually entertaining the two. And all of them think the prophets are older. Even the minimalists think much of the prophets' material is older. So when you're reading a story in Genesis, in Exodus, Leviticus, whatever, the narrative that we're reading is usually understood to be a later narrative that is building upon older material like Isaiah, like Jeremiah might have, like Hosea or Habakkuk or whoever. They're building off of the prophets that they're constructing a lot of this material from. But those prophets, not always, by the way, but those prophets are often pulling from older material as well. Isaiah 51. This is likely drawing from older material. I don't know what section in Isaiah here, because you've got, first, second, and third Isaiah. I think Isaiah 51 might fall into third Isaiah, though. I'm not sure. I could be wrong off the top of my head, because I think 40 to, I don't know where it stops, 56 or something. I'm not sure. We could look that up real quick. How do critical scholars divide the prophet Isaiah? Either way, a lot of these narratives they think are later, and that the prophets are usually earlier. So first Isaiah is 1 through 39. Second Isaiah is 40 to 55. So this is the section of second Isaiah, which is usually dated to the Babylonian exile around the 6th century BCE, especially near the rise of Cyrus the Great, because he gets name dropped. So I would put it after that. I would say sometime in the late Persian period. Seems to be a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, it would be hard to name drop him before he exists, right?
Exactly. But the fact that you have so much in common with the Enuma Elish, it makes perfect sense in an empire where these materials are likely still viral.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've rambled. Sorry.
Yeah. The half of her he stretched out and made it firm as the earth.
And laid the foundations of the earth.
Yeah, also Isaiah.
Same. Yep.
He appointed the year, marked off divisions.
Thou hast made summer and winter.
That's Psalm 74 there. Mm-hmm. He created Nana, which is the moon, entrusting to him the night. He appointed him as the jewel of the night to fix the days. And then there's a lot of text describing the day and night cycle and the month and so on. So
the day is thine, the night also is thine. Thou hast prepared the light and the sun.
He opened the abyss, and it was sated with water. From her 2 eyes, he let the Euphrates and Tigris flow.
Thou didst cleave the earth with rivers.
That's from Habakkuk. He bored wells to channel the springs.
Thou didst cleave the fountain, sorry.
Yeah, that's Psalm 74 again. Marduk set up 3 stars each for the 12th month. He established that the next 3 are again a quite strong connection, I think. He established the heavenly station of Nibiru to fix the stars' intervals.
Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared.
That none should transgress or be slothful.
Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions.
In a list of Marduk's 50 names, number 49 says that Nibiru is one of Marduk's names.
For my name is in him. The name is important. And there you have it.
Yeah.
We got a sexy little presentation over here. I got to get all these like HTMLs like somewhere where I can give like to members of the channel so they can access all this stuff and pull it up. I've got so much material. I need to get it all organized and accessible. You know, I don't know if Joshua Bowman wrote me back yet. He wrote me back during the stream, but he was driving. I'm not sure if he got the exact source from me. Let me see. Did you let me look. It's in volume 2, chapter on the Exodus, and the section about the Red Sea. So volume 2, we're pulling up here, chapter on the Exodus. And I think it's one of the last chapters, if I'm not mistaken, because it goes into plagiarism. Oh, here we go. Chapter on the Exodus. Chapter 4. Okay, I've got the book on my computer over here. Let me see if I can't find this. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. 4 Exodus. Red Sea. Oh, that's not going to work. Exodus. I don't need the story of the Exodus. Egyptian evidence for the Exodus, so common.
I have actually an argument also for Exodus being written post-exilic.
Do you?
Yeah. Because so the thing that I noticed independently, actually, so I wasn't even looking for something maliciously or so, if anybody wants to say that I did. But the books of Nehemiah and Ezra, which are really short books, like 10 chapters only, they talk about the return from Babylon, right?
Right.
And when I read that, I was reading that, and there's a character named Jeshua, then there's a character named Gershom, then there is an Eliezer, an Eleazar, an Itmar, a Phinehas, a Zadok, and I thought, oh, wait, these are all names from Exodus, right? And then you have a David, a Jonathan, a Uriah, a Sharai, a Delilah, Obadiah, Zechariah, Amram, Manasseh, Joseph. And I thought, okay, of course you could say, well, these people are named after the people in Exodus, right?
Right.
So any evangelical would immediately argue that, right? But I didn't do an actual analysis of that, but in 2 so short books, so many names from Exodus is, I think, probably at least a much higher frequency than in any other book of the Bible. So I don't think that it's coincidence. So because then the frequency should be the same. Again, I didn't actually compare that, but I'm just guessing.
I'm sorry. I trying to find this exact spot. It's a pretty good sized chapter, and it covers a lot here. I'll just say it in a nutshell. I recommend everybody go get a copy, of course, of the Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament.
Can I finish the argument?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So don't rip it apart.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So the thing is, of course, these people could be named after people in the Exodus, right? But then I'd say that the frequency of these names should be comparable to the frequency in other books.
Mm-hmm.
And in other books, it wasn't at least so frequent that I would have noticed. And you have 2 or maybe 3 possible interpretations. Either Exodus was written first, which I don't think is very probable. I think with a Chernoff bound, you probably can get that the probability for that really low. And the other explanation would be that someone wrote Exodus after the return to Jerusalem and used names from this actual Exodus to write the Exodus story.
I'd like to look at that when you put that together. Yeah. That'd be interesting for sure. Yeah. Mine wasn't, it's short, it's simple. For what I was going to bring up was the Red Sea. And I mentioned to you before the stream, but I didn't go into great detail. the language used, and I wish I could quote the scholar who said this, but it's in Joshua Bowen's book. The language of the splitting of the Red Sea and the people going across on dry land, and of course, the Egyptians being swallowed up by the sea and killed, drowning. That language, that crossing over that Red Sea, I don't know what the etymology off the top of my head is, but that it could give the implication of the furthest most sea. It's this idea that it is the border between the boundary. You know how they have in the ancient Mesopotamian map, there's the sea that borders the very outer layer of the entire, kind of like people think of the flat earthers think of like the ice wall, but it's a water. It's water that encompasses the earth. It's the furthest most sea, and kind of like Gilgamesh has to cross that kind of sea as well, right, to get to Utnapishtim and whatnot. It's like that, and the language is implying that they have to go out to the beyond, the boundaries of typical humanity. It's mythological, is the point. And there's a scholar I wanted to quote from it, but there is a scholar as well. I came across an article and I can't remember the name of it, where it's at exactly. But this scholar also argues that Gilgamesh patterns the Exodus story. And the reason he does, and I mean, this is off the top of my head, and he goes, I skipped over the chapter because I was really using this work to look for Gilgamesh and the Alexander Romance myth, which I know is using Gilgamesh and its influence on the Quran, because I was using this for a Quran episode I was working on. In it, he highlights how for 40 days, Moses has to travel across this deadly desert, like long ways to get there, journeying so far, just like Gilgamesh has to travel so far. When he gets there, like there's all sorts of interesting parallels this guy was noting, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I would be interested in that as well, because I think that these authors may be playing with these older popular narratives that have been around for thousands of years. It's like if we were writing a mythology today, we might imitate Jesus, okay? In some way in our narration, we might imitate Jesus in telling our story, because it's been most popular story in the Western world right now for, going on now a couple thousand years. And, we might model in many ways after that. The same way, that's what we think of as Christianity and its popularity. They had their popular stories, Gilgamesh and all this stuff, for so long. Oh,
yeah, and they certainly had they staged plays, right? I often have the idea of maybe some of the Israelites living in Babylon and then going to a play and maybe getting some ideas for their own stories. And that might explain why some things might be out of order also. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could totally imagine them doing that.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they did too. Josh is driving. He's like, dude, I have to check my email. I have the book. I was telling him I have the book. I was trying to just get the page number so that I could show people in the book where he says that, because I'm like, dude, it's good. It's good. What he says is good because it maps on to the point. I think we're dealing with mythology. It maps onto the idea of Isaiah that you were quoting. It maps onto the Enuma Elish and this whole mythological chaos comp thing. There's so much that we could explore. I mean, Exodus and comparing it to Genesis and the creation story. There's a lot there. It is about separation and then creation. There's constantly separating and then they're creating. And you get that with days 1, 2, and 3, separate, and then create. And then the 7th day is resting, which we know the 7 days motif is a Mesopotamian one as well. Very important number. And I learned a lot of that out of God and Anatomy. I mean, I knew about it, but I really got to see the ancient Near Eastern parallels and went, damn, I didn't realize God's rest like that. I didn't realize how much they slept. They sleep, Yeah. Interesting.
Something that I just thought that I just recently had is the Hebrews used the Babylonian calendar, right, to determine their to determine the date of Passover, for example. And I'm wondering, why do they have the Babylonian calendar before they were in Babylon? That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if they were in Egypt for 430 years, as the Bible says, they would be using the Egyptian solar calendar. The Egyptians worshipped Ra, a sun god. They had a solar calendar, which is better than the Babylonian calendar.
You would think, right? Let me grab this.
So they wouldn't be using the Babylonian calendar to determine the date of Passover.
I'm sending the book now. I found it. He wrote me back the exact page. I want to show people because I think it's worth it. I mean, it's worth it to me, just so people can understand. I mean, I could read it from the paper. I could read it from the hardcover here, but I'm preferring to show everybody actually. And this is on page 188 in the paperback. So I don't know if it's numbered that way on ebook. Oh, snap. So it's not numbered that way. Suf C, that's it. Suf C. Here we go. SUF. Suf C. There we go. Oh, okay. We found it. So, okay, let me share my screen here. And I'm actually going to drag and drop this here onto. Boom. There we go. Now let's do this. Suf C. All right. Sharing my screen now. All righty. I think you could see that pretty good. This is Joshua Bowen's book, The Song of the Sea, right? We know in Exodus 15.
That's actually, I'm seeing a topic right there that I wanted to tell you also. They cross the Red Sea, right? Across from Baal Zephon, right?
Right.
You know what Baal Zephon is?
No.
That's the holy mountain of Baal.
Saffron. Yeah. Or Zaffron,
and the craziest thing is, I mentioned the Idrimi inscription, right?
Uh-huh.
And in the Idrimi inscription, you have Idrimi being driven out of his land and then joining the Habiru in the desert, and then living there for 7 years until Teshub, the god from the Song of Ulikumi, gives him a sign. And then they use boats to cross the water, and they land at Mount Zephon.
Yeah, that's that mountain is a big deal.
They land at the same mountain.
Yeah, I think in Ezekiel, it's the same mountain where it's talking about Lucifer, trying to raise yourself, your throne above the mountain of God. It's talking about Mount Zephon, Yahweh's mountain, of course. Of course, I just want you to notice that in the Song of the Sea, you get the Suf Sea, right? Suf Sea.
Yeah.
Now, let me go to the next example of the Suf Sea. So before we move out of Egypt into the wilderness, we should deal briefly with the problem of the Suf Sea. There's no shortage of suggestions for identifying which body of water, if any, is being referred to in the narrative. Beitek, for example, identified it as the Bala Lakes, arguing that this Yam Suf is in all likelihood identifiable with the Egyptian toponym, and I can't pronounce this, the papyrus thicket, known from the Ramesside period. Graby, citing a 2011 study by Roskopf, observes that Yam Suf is usually a reference to some portion of the Red Sea, but that in the Exodus narrative, it is instead a reference to the Reed Sea, most likely Lake Timsah, or the surrounding area in the Suez region. In other words, depending on the context in which Yam Suf occurs, it can refer to different bodies of water. Taking different approach, Bernardo Botto recently argued for a mythological understanding of the Suf Sea. He writes, the Reed Sea, this is him, the Reed Sea hypothesis is flawed and must be given up. Yam Suf Suf, should thus be translated as the sea of end. That is, it is the last sea, the sea situated at the edge of creation. Bato's argument is complex and deals with the mythological connections between different aspects of the Exodus narrative and other ancient Near Eastern mythologies. That's got my ears perked up, just wanting to hear more about that. Because if we go look at, let's see, a Babylonian world map, and we know they were flat earthers back then. The Babylonian world map, I almost want to make this is a pretty image of it. I almost want to make for the sake of it. Let's see if there's like one where they try to fill in the gaps for it. We could do this one. I mean, it's really based on the stone though, because I want people to see how, like, this is a real, like, I'm not making up this tablet. This is an actual Babylonian tablet.
Yeah, and that actually puts the landing place of Utnapishtim, I think, also to Urartu, right?
I don't know. Urartu, talking about outside of the habitable Earth location.
I think it's where this broken piece is in the center. They found that piece and put it in, and then they could see, okay, it says that the landing place is in Urartu.
Huh. Here's one that's actually trying to... So the islands, it'd be on one of these islands, I guess, right? I don't know. That Utnapishtim would be at? Because here you have the habitable world in the middle. The ocean, this end, the sea of the end, right, is what encompasses the known world that where human mortals live. You'd have to go beyond that, outside of it somewhere, in order to get to Utnapishtim. Of course, Gilgamesh travels through a mountain for 12 hours, as we know. And what does,
Mount
later...
Mashu, which experts have located or argued is in the Caucasus.
Mount Mashu image. Let's do that. Here's Mount Mashu. Big ass mountain. Lake Mashu. Yep. Beautiful. Oh, that's in Japan. So where's the one in Mesopotamia?
Yeah, it's I think
this is
a mythological place, but
well, the underworld part would be.
But people still try to locate it, and I've actually read a longer text arguing that it's in the Caucasus, and that's again super interesting, having the entrance to the underworld in the Caucasus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you have Mount Nemrut, where the eruption happened.
So powerful. Let me show this here. This is the image that AI tried to improve of the actual ancient tablet that shows the world map. But I'm thinking of the world map. If we're going mythology, we're talking about the sea of the end. It's got to be this circle, this water body at the edge that encircles the flat Earth, the disk of the Earth. And they're somehow breaking beyond this. But then again, I've got questions. It's like, well, how does the narrative work out then? Because if this is the sea of the end, then why did they end up in Canaan? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work? Language-wise, they could still use mythological language, but they're clearly trying to tell you a story about how they got into the promised land. So there's a lot here. I think, to just dive into.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about the Hyksos.
No, that's a fun one too. I got to do some deep dives on that. I might do a video like at some point, like a documentary that is just focused on the Hyksos and understanding them, and then maybe shed some light onto the Bible's Exodus story after.
Someone argued actually that the Shazu are some remnants of the Hyksos, which I think would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I did one on Gilgamesh. I did a documentary on Gilgamesh, and it was a success. I was proud of it. In fact, I might as well pop it up here because it's one of my top viewed videos, or at least it's in the top. I don't know what you would call top 20, 30, 40. I'm not sure if it's in that top, but let me check. I'm going to share my screen here. Popular videos. If you go to my page, and here it is, the Epic of Gilgamesh. So it had 576,000 views in a year. And I narrate, of course. It was a lot of fun. But this is me narrating the story of Gilgamesh, and there's visuals along the way to help tell the story. And it was all about Gilgamesh. And then I did a little commentary at the end on the Bible. And like once in a while I'd sprinkle in the middle and like, remember Adam? Anyway, continuing with Gilgamesh. But like it was the fact that it did so well as just a Gilgamesh video, I was impressed. And I thought, maybe I should do more. Like, what if I did the Hyksos and then sprinkle the Bible in, but like let the Hyksos be praised for once? Why are we always making Moses has got to be the central figure? And it's like, we don't realize, we don't know about the Hyksos. We just know about how do they shed light on our Moses guy. And it's like, what if we gave the Hyksos some praise, let them be the hero of the story like I did for Gilgamesh, and then let Moses be like a later rendition of like potential imitation of the Hyksos, because they deserve their own limelight, their own they're the main character of the video, and you get to learn about them. Because I haven't seen, there's some out there, but I haven't heard like a ton of great documentaries on the Hyksos. So it'd be cool to talk about that. Anyway, I've rambled. So anything, look, you don't have a YouTube channel yet, right?
Well, I have, but
we
don't need to plug it. It's
yeah. Well, okay, let's wrap things up and let's just give a quick summary. What is your takeaway based on what you presented today for viewers who might have watched and thought, there's some interesting parallels there? Like, what would you want them to take away from this?
I personally am really convinced that Exodus is based on Enuma Elish. There's some of these parallels I think are so strong. Again, this is after I've removed weaker parallels, right? Because I thought I don't want to fool myself, right? And I just think it's super interesting, and I think it's true. So that's why I'm here, to spread the word, right?
Yeah. You were excited about it, and I thought, okay, let me make a thumbnail. And the thumbnail I made was pretty cool. I don't think a lot of people...
that's an awesome...
I guess I should show it to everybody who's like, the original image I made from this, I didn't have our faces on it. So I'll show everybody that, because I think it's pretty badass, if you ask me. Let me get that pulled up.
That image is good enough for Jehovah. He said Jehovah!
He said Jehovah! Yes. So you can see Tiamat on the left here, and Marduk on the right, in the body of water that is being split with Exodus, walking on the dry land in the middle. I thought that's pretty cool, to hide them inside the water of the Moses story. And then I added our faces. I try to keep the visuals somewhat there. It's hard to fit you and me in it and this, but it's fun, man. I think that there's some exploration that needs to be done. I would just say, go look for yourself, dive in, and see if you can't find any other PhDs. I'm sure there's some experts out there who've seen this stuff, and thought, man, there's something going on here. They may not have drawn all the parallels you did. They may have drawn some that you never found. That's why I brought up Gilgamesh, because I know I've read PhD somewhere who brought that up. The whole 40 days traveling across the desert. I don't think he made anything about the number, but I think he did make something about the whole long journey through a extremely difficult terrain. And there's something about that. There's something going on there. So thank you, Victor, for your time and coming on and hanging out. I hope that we do this again. I really enjoy learning from you and hearing your angles. And I have a video that is inspired by what you brought up to me about hell and the volcano. I'm not going to dwell on the Germans' work as much, because I haven't read it, number one, and I don't have a book of it. But I do think that even if you can't follow them like on everything, it's kind of common sense that like the idea of the underworld and lava and fire and sulfur comes from likely volcanic activities. And so I've got a documentary coming. I'm probably going to name it. Maybe I'll change it. I do this all the time. Where the hell did hell come from? But that may not work for the title on YouTube. They might try to, oh, you used a bad word or something in the title. I don't know. So I might have to title it something else, but we'll see. We'll see. Any final words from you before we wrap things up?
Yeah, okay. One topic I didn't get into, but you don't like astrotheology anyways.
Well, I don't like it. I don't. Yeah, I don't like it.
But I just want to mention it. This Nibiru, that guide in the end, is super complicated and is kind of refers to Jupiter and stuff.
Right.
And the word also means crossing and to go across, and can refer to go across the sky. And remember, in the ancient Near East, people believed there's an ocean over the sky.
Right.
So in a way, this Nibiru, this Jupiter, crosses the sea all the time. So I see some similarity between Nibiru and Moses. There's actually a Babylonian word, if I can find it. It was, I think, Musheberu or so. So sounds a lot like Moses, and means to bring across. Anyways, I think that there might be a connection between Nibiru and Moses. And the crazy thing is, you had Dr. Adair on, who argued that the name Moses comes from a Coptic word for wanderer, right?
I think so.
You know?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. Do you know the old Greek word for wanderer? Planet.
Interesting.
That's why planets are called planets,
right.
because they wander across the sky.
Right.
So if Moses is a wanderer, he might be a planet Jupiter, and is in Nibiru.
Yeah, I see. So these are all interesting. That's why the whole astrotheology thing isn't. It's
and
not
both of these things connect to the spring equinox. So
right.
So Passover connects to it, and the path of how the Babylonians calculated their years.
Yeah, I guess the way I'd put it is this. Let me give you an example why I am hesitant on leaning heavily on astrotheology. I never deny that there isn't astrotheology. No. I do not find it very easy to convince or to defend because here's the thing. Let's talk about babies in baskets crossing rivers. Well, that river might be the Milky Way, or that river could just be the Nile, or it could just be the Mesopotamian, you know.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I'm saying? Like
one of the ideas for the seven-headed serpent is the Nile Delta.
Right.
So
the
serpent is the Nile, and then the seven heads are the Delta, where it splits. And
I've
actually read or seen someone argue that that this is actually the split in the Exodus, that the heavy, broad Nile splits into many small arms, and then you can cross each of them, so that when the heads are split, you can cross it.
Interesting. So I've never heard of that. I guess like all I'm saying is
you can have a lot of hypotheses, right?
Yeah, I mean, a wanderer could be someone who's wandering the desert or a nomad, and then so you have this question of maybe etymologically, if you go far enough back, the term may actually derive from the fact that planets do run their own course. They run a course you can't predict. That's the problem. Is it's not as predictable as the night stars. These have their own wandering paths. And they don't act function the same way you find stars that are fixed in the sky in their view function. And cool. There's something there that can be explored and potentially has a relationship to astrotheology. And my question then becomes, like, when you're reading a story, like, I'll give you one example that I've heard from the New Testament, and there might be astrotheology in the Gospels. I can't say there isn't. I just, here's the thing. When John the Baptist says, I must decrease and he must increase, if you go read Dia Murdoch, Acharya S., she has an astrotheological explanation for this, that John the Baptist represents, I can't remember what, but Jesus represents the sun. And that this is like this is going toward the winter solstice. So John the Baptist represents something that needs to decrease in the sky. Jesus represents the increase of the sun after the winter solstice or something like this. And so I'm like, okay, that's a possible explanation.
There's something I have to bring up now is John the Baptist is born exactly 6 months before Jesus, right? And Jesus is born on the winter solstice. So John the Baptist is born on the summer solstice. Right.
So you could make a case. We could go
further. Which is also the time when the Hebrews arrive at Mount Zion.
Right. We could go further. We can add layers to this, right?
Yeah.
But then I read someone like Dennis MacDonald, who is reading this same passage. It says, I must decrease, he must increase. And that exact Greek quote comes from Euripides that you find of a decreasing and an increasing of a man. So when you find that and you go, okay, hold on, do we have to play astrotheology in Euripides? Okay, now we got to make Dionysus represent the sun, or like where do we stop and go, hold on, words just mean words on the page. And what he means by it is pretty straightforward. Who I am and the significance of me needs to diminish. He needs to be the important one. We need him to shine and stop focusing on me. I'm nothing. He's the one. I'm just pointing the way for him. That seems to be what the face value of the text says. Now, if you want to get behind the text and suppose the secret esoteric astrotheology, go for it. It's interesting. It's creative. It's fun. But it becomes a thing that I don't think you have to, like, it feels like you got to ignore what's being said to focus on the thing behind the thing in order to make sense of it. And once you have an interpretation that becomes astrotheology, then the face value has it's like, nah, he's not talking about him really decreasing and Jesus becoming the primary guy in the story. It's talking about the sun and the winter solstice, and it's not really talking about what you're reading in the text. And so you can defend that if you want. I don't think it can stand the scrutiny after a while, because if these authors are doing it, it's very, very difficult for you to prove it. I think the strongest case in my view, and I'm sure there's other examples in the Bible, but the strongest off the top of my head is Samson, because his name literally means sun, the sun, right? And he has 7 locks of hair, 7 days in the week, 7 rays, if you will. When you cut his hair off, he has no strength, right? I feel like Samson is at least the best example I can come up with off the top of my head. But even then, I wouldn't want to have to defend it. I wouldn't want to have to be like, I can really prove to you this is all a secret story, because there's a lot of down on earth stuff that goes on. And I think if you're looking at the stars, you might miss what's happening on earth in some of the situation. So the clever author may have sprinkled both. And that may be the case for the Gospels too. I have no way. Yeah.
Just like two gods never are a one-to-one match, right?
Right.
You always have some aspects from here, some aspects from there.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying. I don't want
a bit frustrating for a mathematician like me.
Look,
because I like definitive answers.
I agree. I think the other thing, and a lot of the 19th century scholars liked this early 20th century. Like I got a book actually. Let me see if I can find it. It's kind of a big one. Here it is. This. So let me give you an example. Okay. This book right here, I created a Samson documentary a while back. It's called The Story of Samson and Its Place in the Religious Development of Mankind by Paul Karras. He wrote this 1907, and it's got like pictures. It's got like classic old ancient. I love this stuff. The Phoenician Samson, right? So there is an image. It's beautiful. It's cool. I mean, it's obviously black and white. I don't know if that's Paul Karras in front of like a giant statue in, representing Samson, but he has a Phoenician Samson, right? I'm just going to name table of contents because it's an absolute fun, interesting, worthy read to understand. Right. So he goes over two scholars, Roscoff and Steinthal. The problem of originality, the romance of Alexander, the localization of myths, Hebrew literature and its redactors, the sun in Hebrew literature. So now he's going to get into some of the astrotheology stuff, specifically engaging with the bodies of the heavenly bodies, the date of the Samson epic, the paganism of Dan. There's some interesting stuff in this, man. I think it's worth reading. Shamash and Samson, Dagon of the Philistines, Yahweh stronger than Dagon, fish deities, Dagon, a god of agriculture, the symbol of the fish, Beelzebul and Beelzebub, Beth Shemesh, the valley, Mahane, Dan, Tibne and Ascalon, Etam and Lehi, Gaza, and then he goes into Samson's birth, the biblical account, the holy men of the Semites, the kid offering, Theophanies, the meaning of Nazir, Gentile Nazirism. That might be the Nazarite, stuff that he thinks is going on.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite hypotheses for the origin of Nazareth.
Okay. He goes, the etymology of the Nazarene, of course, the nomad life of Israel, Samson's life. So Samson's marriage and what followed. Samson carries off the gates of Gaza, Samson and Delilah. 12 labors. He thinks that there are 12 labors of Samson, just like there are 12 labors of Hercules or Heracles. The lion and the bee. The foxes with firebrands. Simile and Dido. Samson in hiding. The jawbone of an ass, which he doesn't mean. I don't think he's reading that as literally the jawbone of an ass, but he thinks it's a mountain area or something. And I don't know if he postulates that it could mean a heavenly body. I'm not sure. The gates of Gaza, the web of Delilah, Samson's 7 braids, the one-eyed one, which he compares. He mentions one eye. My reading of the Samson story isn't he had one eye gouged out, but that they just seared out both. But he understands, because Samson loses his sight in the story. Yeah, he reads this as a one eye, and he parallels it to Odin, who sacrifices one of his eyes at the well in order to get the wish that he wanted. I think it's Odin, if I'm not mistaken.
But didn't Hermes get his eyes both his eyes gouged out, and then he goes to Helios or to the sun god, and then the sun's rays heal him. He gets his vision back.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read that one. I'd be interested in reading. If you, by the way, you got me on WhatsApp. Send me what you find. You know me. The one-eyed one, I'll just send into Samson's death, and then he goes into solar myths, a section on solar myths, mythical traits of the Samson story, the number 7, 30, and 12, the lion and the dragon, Hercules and Heracles, Idzubar, the helper. Listen to this. Idzubar. Who's that? Well, they didn't know, linguists didn't know this, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I can't remember right now off the top of my head. I could pull to the chapter. Actually, I will do that. I think it's Gilgamesh. They didn't know what to pronounce him, but it could be something else. Let me see. It is. So look, right? You know that picture.
Yeah, that's Gilgamesh.
That's Gilgamesh. Yeah, they did not know how his name should be pronounced or spelled. And at one point, his name, when you go back into the 19th century scholars, it's Idzubar. Gilgamesh, Idzubar. So he goes through Idzubar, an immortality. Samson and Heracles parallels them. Death and resurrection of the sun. So he goes through Samson, a prototype of Christ. The Phoenician Melkart, the dying god. Osiris, Samson's tomb. Why the resurrection of Samson was suppressed. So he believes that there was an earlier story to the Samson myth. And I think if you look up it should be free on Google, just a strange biography of Samson. It may be just called a strange biography, but if you look up a strange biography by Yair Zokovich, go read that article. He thinks that the story we're reading has been tweaked, that they have changed the Samson narrative. His birth was clearly a pagan birth. Like he was born by a god and a mortal woman. And there's a strange scene, even Josephus hints at this in his recollection of the Samson story, where the mother goes out in a field and the angel of the Lord is with her alone. And all of a sudden she is pregnant. And the divine one is the one who's present. And then the father, the mortal husband, comes to her in the field. It's so strange. So that's why he's called it a strange biography, that it hints at that Samson is divine. He's partly divine, kind of like Gilgamesh gets hinted at being 2/3 divine. We don't know who his parent, we don't know who his dad, his divine father is, but it seems to be hinted. Last thing is the resurrection of the redaction of the Samson story, and then conclusion. Yeah. So if you're looking, I went and bought this on Amazon personally, and I was just like, you could probably access this on an ebook, but I was like, it's a classic. So I went ahead and grabbed it. Anyway, he covers some of that astrotheology stuff, and it used to be in favor. But when you start reading some of the scholarship, when I made my documentary, you'll go into the 70s. There's some scholars who wrote about Samson in the 70s and 80s, and they take this older model to task and show the flaws in the method and it's not even their fault. A lot of it is language we know now, things we know about Phoenicia we didn't know then, things we know about Mesopotamia that we didn't know then. So there's things we've learned and why they don't treat Samson the way some of the older scholarship did. And I say in the video, I'm about to introduce you to an old idea of Samson. It's fun. It's interesting. Let's play with it. But then after that, I get to updated scholarship. And that's in my Samson documentary that I guarantee you a lot of you watching haven't seen. Shameless plug here, but I feel like I have to. Where's my... thought I had it up here. Let's go to MythVision. Sorry, I'm shamelessly plugging, but most of you who might find this interesting might want to go watch the video. It's in my popular section.
Yeah, that's a really good channel there. You should subscribe to that.
Yeah, it's pretty. He's pretty cool too. I hear the guy is pretty cool. The one that runs this channel. You know, if you get to know him, you know, he's a pretty good dude. You might think he's a heretic, but hey, you know, is what it is. That's Book of Judges, which has some interesting stuff about Samson in there. It's specifically a Samson video.
Speaking of heretics,
here it is.
I'm a member of a German podcast called the Heretics Podcast.
You're part of a Heretics podcast?
Yeah, Ketzer Podcast. It's in German, but that translates to Heretics Podcast.
Okay. Hey, that's what I'm
shameless plug.
Shameless plug to them. Scrolling through here. Yeah, I go through some older. I'm not sure where. I think do I have chapters in this? I should. The life of strange biography. There's Yair Zokovich, right? A strange biography starts here. Yair Zokovich, which I cover. I'm glad I remembered his name. Good on me. Okay, so I cover the strange biography because I wanted to give you good scholarship before I get to outdated stuff. And then I get to Foreign Women, A Big No-No, Samson and Mythological Parallels, Paul Karras. There you go. So now we're going back in time. This is going to go through a lot of the interesting parallels. Let's see, Simile and Dido, and how long do I take him? Legends of Sun Heroes, The Gates of Gaza, Symbolism, Lion and the Dragon, Legends. Okay, that's when I move. So by hour and 10 minutes, I move to 1987. You can see, because I want to get you out of the 1907 stuff. I just wanted you to have fun with me for it, so you could see where scholarship was. Some scholarship was. But then 1987 is when you really, like, they've already been changing, but like I'm reading the scholars and I'm going, okay, they're not buying a lot of the older stuff, the way that it was portrayed. And then we end up going to some other stuff too. But yeah, the most current would be like Yair Zokovich, The Strange Biography of Samson, which I started with. And it's a fun documentary. So if you have 2 hours and 5 minutes, you really want to like dive deep into Samson, you're going to have some fun with this. You're going to have some fun with this. I guarantee you. Anyway, I've done a shit ton of promoing myself there. I really wish I could promo you more, but we got a super chat by Mr. Black 5554. Thank you so much for the super chat. Why does no one speak about the Proto-Sumerian written story of Anunnaki 28,000 years ago on the barrow walls of Arata? I have never heard of this. Yeah, and I don't know how do they know it's the Anunnaki. I'm gonna try to search this real quick here. Before we go, because they super chatted, and I think it's important we understand this. I've never heard of that. Let me see. Okay, so I just I figured I'd toss it in ChatGPT. Just say, what do you think of the super chat? Like, what are your thoughts? They say the claim is not accepted by critical historians, Assyriologists, or mainstream archaeologists. It sounds like a mix of three different things. Arata is a semi-legendary land in Sumerian literary text.
Anunnaki have recently actually been found.
Really
just a few months ago, I've read an article that they are quite confident they found Arata.
Interesting.
I think in Iran.
Okay. Well, that would make sense. Anunnaki, Mesopotamian gods known from Sumerian Akkadian religion, and then Kemiana Mahila stone grave in Ukraine, a real prehistoric petroglyph site that some fringe writers, this is how it's identifying it, some fringe writers have tried to connect to Proto-Sumerian writing. The problem is the date, 28,000 years ago, is wildly impossible for Sumerian writing. The earliest secure writing in southern Mesopotamia appears in the 4th millennium BCE, around 3,300 to 3,000 BCE. Not 28,000 years ago. The Anunnaki are in Mesopotamia, but we know who the Anunnaki are. I've covered that as well in a video if we're interested in checking that out. But the University of Pennsylvania's ORACC project describes the Anunnaki as a group of gods in the Mesopotamian pantheon, later sometimes associated with underworld gods. So ultimately, seems that there's no mainstream scholarship that talks about this 28,000-year-old Proto-Sumerian Anunnaki story on barrow walls in Donetsk. But is there an image?
Writing 28,000 years ago is implausible.
Well, that's pushing it, because I don't know. Have you seen who's I always mess his name up. Finkel, I think it is. Irvin Finkel, the Mesopotamian guy.
What about him?
He thinks that writing is older than that, but not 28,000. But let me show you this guy. We've all seen this guy before, I'm sure.
That's actually the guy. He has a video on YouTube where he shows this Babylonian world map with the missing piece, and he explains that.
Yeah,
I think I think you have. Yeah, that's it.
That's the one, I bet. He did an episode with Lex Friedman. And the one that he did that caught my attention, cuneiform, let me do this. Ancient language. It's like 9,000. He pretty much says that they found a stamp in, and this might be it. This is the one. This is the one right here. He is pushing the envelope, clearly, like probably pissing off 1 million people in the field. But he argues that somewhere in this episode, I'll send it in the chat if you really want to hear, like, pushing the dating back some, that they found a stamp, and it is, I'm posting that, just free advertisement here for Irvin Finkel. This image is a stamp with those images that's like 10,000 years old. And he said that this is writing. This is not just like drawing an animal like you see some of the animal like in Göbekli Tepe and other places where they have animal statues. This was a stamp that they found, a seal in the digging up of one of these sites, these ancient 10,000-year-old sites. And he said that's language that is inscribed on a stamp that he thinks does go back. He said the problem is most language was probably written on leaves and things that do disintegrate, and over time we have lost. And so he's pushing the boundaries of what the consensus is thinking about when it comes to language. But 28,000 years ago, there was probably spoken language clearly, but like written, that becomes more difficult to prove at all. You know what I mean?
I think Israel Finkelstein argued that that there probably wasn't writing before, because if there was, you would expect writing to be found on walls, on concrete and stuff like that doesn't integrate, but you don't. And I found that quite convincing.
Well, thank you for the super chat. I've never looked into this. I'd be curious to see.
It reminds me a bit of something that I've read, in some cave they had some markings, and somebody argued that these markings described some constellations of the stars, and when you see these, then you can hunt this kind of animal that's drawn next to it, but that wouldn't be writing, and I wouldn't see Anunnaki necessarily.
Yeah.
Unless we are talking about Anunnaki being stars.
Yeah. Hey, look, again, I'm not saying there isn't something to it, man. I want people to understand me clearly. I just think it's harder to defend or prove. I mean, I think when you're telling a story, if I'm going to tell you a story about the night sky, let's just say, or some characters are representative of the night sky, but I tell it in a story where it's like, there was a man who was fighting against this lion, and as he was fighting against the lion, he had to rip the jaws of the lion and choke it to death in order for it to not kill the children in the neighborhood, in the village. And after that happened, there was a great famine that took place, and he realized he needed to restore the lion's life. So he brought the carcass of the lion and traveled across. I'm making this up as I go, right? Notice everything I just said. You have a visual on Earth. You have like the way you understand it is there's a real lion. I just killed a real lion. You know, you're traveling. Then we see actual Assyrians who really had arenas where they brought real lions in and they used them as target practice with arrows. That's real. That's not a heavenly made up story. That's real people on the ground actually killing lions and whatnot. And so you have to wrestle between, do they mean this is like Leo in the night sky, or are they meaning it like real lions are being killed, preventing the little children in the village from being killed by the lion? Like it's I mean, we could do this with Adapa. We could do this with what's the older Kurtu? Not Kurtu, but not Adapa, but the older god. It's not Kurtu. No, that's Canaan.
Ahikar?
There's a god, not a god, a king that's older than Adapa. The story has him. He can't have offspring, and there's a snake and a eagle that are in fight. They're battling. Itana. Yeah, Itana. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And anyway, like when you read that story, is the serpent and the eagle representative of something in the heavens? Well, we could potentially make the case, because when he asks for help, you know, he has to help the eagle, because in order for him to get to heaven, something has to fly to get him up there. And so you could go, well, actually, they're really secretly celestial. Or you could just go, well, the eagle was fighting with a snake on the ground because they probably saw birds really fighting with snakes all the time. And that's why it's not a easy one to prove. You have to be very careful with your method, I think, when you go to try to do that. Anyway, Mr. Black, thank you for the super chat. They said, also following up, the petroglyphs are arranged in proto Sumerian method. No one has been able to go and study more since 2014. It is telling same story recorded in Sumerian Akkadian 20,000 years later. So Huh. They said they've researched it and they have done that for more than 15 years. So a lot of people are into this kind of stuff. I'd be interested to know where where do you recommend we go and learn more? Is there any serious scholars out there at all that are taking it serious? I'd be interested to hear. I mean, just because lots of non-experts do look for things like this and do make connections. Are there anyone who's like serious, not just like a internet, enthusiast, but like anyone who knows what they're talking about with the languages and things like that are making this argument? That's what I would like to see. If you have that, please send me anything you got on it. Interested. MythVision Podcast at gmail.com. There's the email.
But interesting topic. I will look into that.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking. Please email me. I'd be interested in the sources and to see if there's what the primary sources are, visuals, things like that. I'd be interested in it. All right, Victor, I've kept you up far too late. It's way past your bedtime. You're in Germany, correct?
Yeah, it's almost 12 here. But I love talking about this stuff, and we actually have a celebrate. What's the English word? A day where we don't have to work tomorrow. So. Oh,
okay. So you're in a good place. Okay, cool. Mr. Black dropped another super chat before we wrap things up. Just to follow up, Anatoly Kifishin, forgive me if I butcher that, identified the carvings as Proto-Sumerian texts. Has physicists and other come in, but no scholarship since. Okay. I'm just going to save this super chat here, and I'm going to check that out for myself. And if you could email me whatever you have, like links to stuff, I'm curious. I'd be interested to see what do they say about it? What is going on? And of course, I know people who do know how to read Sumerian. So be curious to see if they see something there. Like, I don't know. Be interested. Any final words from you, Victor?
No.
None. Look, love you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the super chats, the support, being members of the channel, liking and sharing this content so we can keep the conversation going. That's what we love to do here. We love to think critically about things and encourage others do the same. We like to connect dots too. We like to see parallels with other stories. It's something me and Victor love to do. Victor, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for putting these connections together, having us think about things in a way we don't typically think of them. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, we are MythVision.
MythVision.
Have a good one.
Son, do you want to know what the truth is? After this, there's no turning back. You take the blue pill and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland, and I show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.